was such a predictable value there, and I think that's a big part of like why it is what it is.
Yeah.
Is that buoy is so nice, and the reading of it is so dialed now. And if you ever get a single swell sunset day, it's the best day of surfing in your life. It is. It honestly is.
Yeah.
It's like surfing Snapper Rock or surfing J-Bay, but it's 5-8 times the size. It's 8 to 10 foot.
Bowl.
Yeah, and it's just waiting for you, and you're doing whatever you're doing on a pretty good sized board, and you just know it's coming, and then it's on. You point it to the beach.
I miss, and you don't see it so much. Well, obviously, you don't see it a lot on media and movies anymore, unfortunately. Yeah. But I miss seeing, even in the contest, like no one does the roll-ins, like the really far out, like fading roll in into sunset. Like you all kind of sit just before the bowl, almost. It seems in the contest, at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's my critique.
No, it is.
Easy critique.
But on any day you see it. There's like Bobby Owens made that point on his Instagram, but his brother is the story, Chris Owens.
Really?
Yeah, Chris is the real deal. Not that Bobby isn't, but Chris is like a demon child. And one season when I was there, he was on a tear, and he wanted to be the record holder for the paddle from Oahu to Kauai. And I'd see him like in this like disgusting blue truck at the top of the hill, or right at sunset, and just steely eyed. And that season, going up to the training of that, he would just be surfing every day, probably working, but it was just surfing, and that was his kind of prep. I think he also did tons of other cardio and all that. So then he paddled it. I remember I didn't see him take off, but he took off at the Willy Willy Tree entrance, that the beautiful Sunset Point entrance, not the True Point, but like the down from there, right by the Billabong house, the big wall. And he paddled out right from there, and I think he did it under 24 hours or something like that. And I don't think he had a boat. Maybe he had a boat meet him halfway there, and then he did it. So then it's on the Honolulu Star, local hero Chris Owens sets record, or I think he did set it. I think he did it in like 22 something or another, and it's insane,
That's incredible.
So then, hold on. So then he does it, and then he comes back possessed, and he has like a bad knee, so he's got this knee brace on, and we're surfing pretty good size sunset, and it was classic, like started at 7 foot, and by the end of the night it was 12, maybe a 15-footer, but probably just like good 30-foot faced waves. And so I see him, I'm like in the channel and in the channel further, like I'm not even trying to really kind of play in that realm. I just showed up.
What are you riding?
7.2 Minami.
Nice.
And it was just way too small, and I was pale and just not really in it. And I just knew that, and I said, all right, I'll just wait, but getting in is going to suck, but I'll just deal with that. But Owens took off out the back, and he was riding Tom Nellis boards, and that was like the fucking sign of the beast. Yeah, lightning bolt, but like a different lightning bolt, almost like they were like longer, his laminates. So he goes on the Nellis, spins at the very last minute at the top of a big West 20-foot face wave, and just eats shit right at the top of the wave, and just cartwheels down, boom, 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 boom. And it's like, I'm like, oh my god, this guy's dead. And I don't see him for a bit, and then I just hear and he's just paddling back up the point, and just red faced and crazy eyed and just sinewy, just great muscles, and goes way the frick back out the back. And I'm waiting, and I kind of would sprint into the impact zone to get maybe a wave, but then would see the set coming. I'd go back to the channel and kind of button hook back out. And then finally he's like way out, drops in, and again, maybe a little bit bigger of a wave, and just packs the whole inside, and you just hear the whole parking lot go ballistic, So it's like death and then the glory, that when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, this is it. Bunch of those moments where seen Poncho Sullivan load, you'd call it the slingshot peak. It's not the boneyard top, and it's not the bowl. It's just a weird in between, and that's kind of where the guys would sit. Brian Surratt sits there. Brian Surratt in like a little black Speedo, and he's just whistling, and then Poncho dropping in and getting completely kegged on a 15-foot face barrel, triple overhead barrel. He's just, I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this right now. Like that big of a tube, a guy to spin. He's on a 6'8", 6'6", Bushman, just perfect board, perfect wave. And I'm like, fuck, that's insane. Totally out of my league, and just totally like I can't believe I'm here right now. Or I can't believe I'm watching this. And then Brian's like, let's go, Brazilians, Europeans, Japanese guys. It's just awesome.
My brother once got yelled at by Poncho at Sunset.
Are you serious?
Yeah. He was really bummed because he was a big Poncho fan, and he was just out surfing. And he had this. It was like '99, and he had Patagonia gun shaped by Bobby Owens actually, and he's out there and he caught a wave, but no one was on it. He didn't see anyone. He pulled out. He's sitting there, and all of a sudden he sees Poncho paddling directly to him, and he's like,
behind him the whole time.
He's like, oh. This Poncho, he's paddling towards me. Maybe he wants to talk to me. Maybe he's really interested in my Patagonia board or something. Poncho comes up. He's like, did you drop in on me on that wave? He's like, no, I swear I didn't.
Not me on the yellow gun.
I think you did.
Yeah.
And my brother's I didn't. I swear, Poncho, I love you. Did you, when you were on the North Shore, were you picking up tips for shaping? And were you studying there?
Yeah. So that was where it really was I realized that there's a way that you can live in your neighborhood, that you can have a setup, and then you can kind of live with your community and make boards for your community. Jim Yarborough, Hell Yeah Surfboards, he does all the brewers, or not all of them, but he'll get them to the point, and then Dick will shuffle in and do his thing, and then bobble out, and he'll host him. And so I never watched him shape, but it was just in front of me, and he would bike past, and then I'd always say hi. And then there was a surfboard broker there named Mike Harris, and if you've ever been at Sunset Beach and you've tried to get a used board or a place to rent or a car, Mike Harris, they call him Slow-Mo or Sunset Mike.
Yeah.
And he's he has some ridiculous business names, the Board Sticks with an X or something, but it's he's totally not that guy. But he's brilliant. He's old Carmel guy, and he's the first guy to surf Ghost Tree.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
cool.
He has a hokey late '60s name Mihokan or something like that. But he was nuts, and so he would surf Sunset, and so he would kind of facilitate meetups to buy boards, really. And I was just obsessed with getting the right board for there, and it's so cheap there. I was just in awe that you could get. Charlie Walker was a guy I was just obsessed with. He was
Charlie Walker's a legend,
your height. He was the best sander on Oahu, and just a freak show athlete. And they called him
Bradshaw's
Skywalker.
Former tow partner.
Yeah, really, they were tow partners.
Yeah, they were tow partners.
Kenny B,
late 90s.
I had a Kenny B. I actually had a Gary Elkerton 8.4.
No,
yeah, it was. There were a couple of them that I would get.
Who shaped those?
It could have been a Kingsley, I think. Kingsley was a
Kingsley Looker?
Yeah, it could have been.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was a old grip tape on the back with no kick. It was just a flat grip tape, but it was just a perfect board. $280.
Wait, Kingsley as in Brian King, maybe?
No.
I
wonder who it was. Kingsley it was definitely that, and it had a big K with a neon emblem on it.
It could be Sky King, who used to live in New York for a little while. He's the real turtle that North Shore they base turtle off of.
I never knew
King.
that. That's pretty
and he moved here, was an art director actually. 9/11, he was out back in Hawaii. Now he's just he's been glassing since.
Yep.
So I think it's the same King potentially. Potentially, we called him Kingsley. So.
Sweet.
And he used to surf here. Never wore a wetsuit. He'd surf all the way up until November in board shorts.
That's awesome.
Was he a Long Beach guy?
Yeah.
Sick.
Hung out with Unsound. He did the Unsound logo and everything for those guys back in the day. So
that's a cool fact.
Yeah. That's something for the back pocket.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
So you had Turtle shape you a board, basically.
If that's true, that would be incredible.
That's probably it.
Well, Mike Harris was the guy, and so you get a board. He was through Mike Slow-Mo, and so he'd set you up with everybody, and then so you would say all right, Walker. He had this crazy way. Walker has 2 boards. He wants $300 each. Offer him $325, and you go see the shop. And so you'd be like, I have $750. I'd like to see your shop. And you'd be like, all right, come on in. Here's where you do this and this and that, and then you want this. And then he's like, all right, that's it. Get the boards. Get the fuck out of here. That's it. And then so you do it again, and then the Corey Cordoza guy sold me a planer, and
nice.
I wasted 18 hours of my life hanging around his house, and crazy, but I did it. You know.
What year was this?
2001, 2000, something like that. Yeah.
It's a good year.
There's a bunch of great years. That wasn't, to be honest, Chad Smith and I had a bunch of good laughs about those years then. And like my buddy Pat was just a great guy, and he went to school there, but then moved away and went to the country. And he used to live with Jason Frederico. So like you have someone like that, and then all the stuff that would come with that. And that was the apex of the Pipe Posse and the Wolf Pack, and just wild stuff, you know.
You had the board show, the reality show around that time too, with Sonny Garcia, Damien Hobgood, and like, remember that? That was like 2000, 2001.
You're right. Y2K surf.
Yeah,
it was a reality show, and basically you had like a bunch of pros living in a house. You had Sonny Garcia, you had Damien Hobgood, you had Veronica Kay.
I remember that. Yep.
All of them living in a house, and like it was like all made all this drama.
Is the wave pool reality show a real thing?
Yeah.
What?
The Ultimate Surfer.
Oh, the one that WSL's gonna do? Yeah, Johnny, you gonna enter it? You can be
I
in.
don't have the credentials.
You do. You're exactly that.
You're a strapping, good-looking young man who happens to surf well. You're very photogenic. That's exactly what they want. Someone who has some core, who has a core that people can respect, but also can make the jump into the pop world.
And then be an absolute psycho for television, right? Like
that's what you have to do. Yeah.
You have to do lots of selfies.
Right.
So, Charles, you gave me a list of topics to discuss here. Let's
plus or minus. Yeah.
I'm guessing like these are topics you've thought about wanting to discuss. You've wanted to air these out.
I think what it comes down to is when you're on a podcast, people will bring these up, but then the conversation doesn't really go further than that. So like people will tiptoe or dance around them, and
no tiptoeing here.
I should say that I don't know which ones you're going to draw on, but like
all of them.
This will be of a small sampling and like an authentic one, just because the three of us were fortunate to grow up where we grew up and in the process in which we did, and I think sometimes, like, I was driving over here thinking about some of this, and like the standard now, it's been the last 8 years, is that like the majority of people that are into surfing aren't necessarily from that locale. They usually move there, and they usually are chasing kind of like the glory of what the beach is and like what the beach offers, and like my specific area, the Jersey Shore, that was. And obviously Long Beach and beyond, Coney Island, was just a respite for city dwellers. So it was this idea, like John Bradley came to Ocean Grove. There's like a series of these like shit books that live on the shore. You'll see them in your doctor's office. They're like beige, and it'll say like the story of Coney Island, the story of Bradley Beach. And so I read one of them one time, and I think I did buy it eventually. But the story of John Bradley was that he was like a garmentier, he made combs.
Yeah.
And he made, in the Industrial Revolution, they would kill a bunch of horses and they'd make like horse-haired combs. He made a bunch of money, tons of money, but he realized money doesn't give you happiness. Lost all his hair. That freaked him out. And he took the...
Doesn't help the comb business, does it?
Well, I love that detail. I love that detail. I was dying. So he's a comb owner, but he's got no fucking hair to comb, right? So anyway, he goes to the Jersey Shore. What do you do, right? So he goes to Jersey Shore. It's like a 5-day trek on horse and carriage through bogs, swamps, Red Bank, downstation Red Bank. They keep going. They get down there. He comes with a porter, African-American porter, i.e. basically a slave. And they get down to the water line. I'm fast-forwarding big time.
Yeah.
And they pass the elders and the cedars, beautiful like pines that met the sea, so to speak. And they're in like just travel clothes, but I think they got down to their like whites, like which would just be like your sleeping suit.
They're knickers.
Yeah. And so I think knickers are like the high socks, but this is like your like big bathrobe kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they lay down in the water and they let the wash kind of wash over him. And he felt that was the most purifying thing. And I think he held his porter's hand in that wash line, right? So it's this example of like what the area does and what it has done. And ever since then, he's like, I'm done with the city. I'm living here. That's it. And like since the late 1800s, since that Industrial Revolution boom, the shore has been a place for people to run to and kind of escape city life and city pressure, city anxiety. So back to the original point, when you're a local